Right, shall we make a start?
Yes, indeed. Hello, everyone.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this show with myself and Claire Evans. And we're talking today about saying no. Now, as I admitted when I wrote the beginning to this show, I sometimes have problems. So why do we have problems in saying no?
I think it's because we want to be helpful and we want to say yes to anything and everyone, or we don't want to miss out on various opportunities that we see coming our way. So there is a tendency to say yes, and we feel if we say no, we're being unhelpful, we're being perhaps people don't think we're capable of doing something. And so saying no actually is one of the most important things you can do in order to regain control of your time. And it's about if you've got the right plans in place and you know what it is that you're aiming for, actually saying no becomes easier. And there are ways of saying no nicely as well.
Indeed. Yesterday, I posted an invitation to somebody to take part in the photography competition. Well, not competition. You asked me to post 7 photos in 7 days.
Yeah.
And I made a start and I nominated somebody. And they straight away, it was Sandrine, she said, I post photographs on my blog every week. I'm sorry, I can't help you.
That's
yeah. And because she sells photography books and she makes a living doing photography.
Yeah.
So she said no, but she said it nicely.
Yeah. Which is fun, it's fair enough, and you're perfectly entitled to say no. And actually, for that particular thing, that you get these on Facebook all the time,
yeah,
sort of requests to post or repost or copy and paste and join in, and I do see a lot of them as being the equivalent of the chain letters that we used to have sort of back in the non-digital age. But I mean, this one is something that I felt connected and resonated with what I do generally, so I was happy to get involved. And that's what you need to think about is this something that I want to be part of? Is this going to be the best use of my time? And perhaps social media we should avoid if we don't want to get sucked in too much. And is it going to help me to achieve what I'm trying to achieve, whether that's in your personal life or in your work life in particular, which is what we're really looking at and thinking about. So saying no is okay. It's your time, it's your choice of how you spend it and what you do with it. So if you want to say no or you need to say no, then that's what you need to do.
Yeah. And then again, there's staying with Facebook for a moment. People have been posting that they're going to be on MasterChef, and people have been saying, "Congratulations, well done, you're amazing. I look forward to seeing you there." And then I went on to the internet and Googled it, and it all started back in 2010, and it has nothing to do with cancer research. It's how can I put this? It's spam.
Yes, yeah. Spam is finding its way into the digital age these days, and I saw something similar about also related to, I can't remember if it was cancer research or Macmillan, and again it was old information. So don't automatically repost or pass things on, even though it may be a great cause, because actually it might be out of date.
That's true. I mean, Snopes is our friend, isn't it? If you come across anything.
Yeah, I love Snopes. Well, I don't use it as much because I tend to ignore most of the things, or it's easy to recognise what's coming through, things like that. So yeah, so actually saying no to a lot of our email inbox is also a very useful thing to do. As in, unsubscribe, don't pass things on, and you don't need to respond to absolutely everything that's in there.
Yeah, because we've talked before about email overwhelm, haven't we?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we subscribe to so many newsletters. Well, I do.
Oh, I do as well. There's always something interesting, and you think, "Oh, I'll just sign up for that." And actually, I spent a good part of the last sort of a few days when it's been a bit quieter, or sort of between holiday time, actually realizing how many things I'd subscribed to, and while they might have been great a few months ago, perhaps I'm not reading them or they're not as useful, so just unsubscribe.
True. I use unroll.me to do that. It makes life a lot easier.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Now we've talked about Facebook, and now we've come to our professional lives and saying no to people. And welcome to Gianfranco and Rashim. If I've used your surnames, I do apologise, but welcome anyway. And we're talking about saying no, and we've just approached the point where we're saying no in business, and that's something we've got to get used to doing, isn't it?
Oh, definitely. And I think, again, I get plenty of requests coming through for clients, talks, whatever it might be, article information. Articles I tend to say yes to, but it is one of the things that I quite often say to people. Sometimes you need to say no to certain clients or prospective clients, which can be a bit scary, especially if you're starting up your business or things are just ticking over. But if you get really clear about who, from a client perspective, is a good person to work with, then it makes it easier to say no. Because if you say yes to every opportunity that comes along, or every client that's there requesting you to work for them or for your customer, then you're spending time and energy and effort on that, and they may not be the ideal client for you. So if you're very clear up front, you can actually say, well, actually this person isn't a good fit, or this piece of business isn't a good fit for what I want to do, or this project doesn't fit well with where I am. Yes, it might be a little bit of money coming in, but in the longer term, in a lot of these situations, it ends up being more of a pain than it's worth. And we all know those clients that we say yes to, and then perhaps a few months down the line wish we hadn't.
Well, I'm guilty as most of giving an inch and they take a mile. So having setting boundaries, how do you go about that?
And that's where the boundaries come in, is be very clear, and particularly with clients and your customers and certain projects, about what's included, what's not. And if you set the expectations and the boundaries up front, it makes it much easier to either be able to push back and say no, or sort of say yes, but it's going to cost you extra, or that's not what was included. So those boundaries are important.
Yeah. And how do you communicate those boundaries? At the beginning of the relationship, or
when either at the very beginning, or when you're starting to work with them, or you agree to work with them, that you perhaps have something in a contract or a client agreement, or within the proposal that sets out the basics, at least, of I don't know how many hours you're going to work, what's included, what's not included, if it's a particular project, what the outcomes are going to be. And then if they start asking for extra, you can be clear about, well, that's not what was sort of included at the start, or that's going to be an additional cost or time overhead, or it does make it much clearer on that.
Yeah, I mean, as Rashim has just said, saying no is sometimes a challenge in business.
It is.
Starting out, because you're afraid of passing up an opportunity.
Definitely, and I saw that from Rasheen. So yes, it's very much knowing what's right for you and your business, because there will be other opportunities. So you don't need to grab every single one that comes along, especially if it's not quite right. And if you pass on that opportunity, another one will come along that perhaps will be an even better fit. And if you've already said yes to everything, and you've already taken on as many clients as you can cope with, you don't then have the capacity, when something that's a better fit comes along, to be able to take that on.
Yeah, I mean, we all get caught up in trying to impress people, don't we?
Yes, yeah. And it's about sort of knowing what's best for you and for your skill set, and not just sort of saying, well, yes, I'll say yes to that piece of work, and then having to worry about, well, how am I actually going to achieve that? Have I got time for it? Is it a good fit? Have I got the capacity, or have I got the right people available that can actually take on this piece of work? And that's something that I think we often struggle with, particularly when you're new in business, because you want to say yes to absolutely everything that's coming along. And I certainly did at the start, because it's experience, and you learn from that experience that there are some things that you perhaps should have said no to.
And it's all too easy to say yes.
Yes, and I think the other important thing around boundaries, particularly in this sort of digital age where we're constantly online, contactable 24/7, is that you have clear boundaries around your work life and your home life. And the number of people that are on their phones doing work-related calls outside of hours, or doing emails in the evenings and weekends. That's fine if that's the way you work, because there is a sort of flexibility around working that we can now do with all the technology. But just as long as it's not constant and it's just sucking into your personal time as well as work time. And again, that's something to be clear with customers and clients up front. These are my working hours. This is what time you can contact me until, and then not responding to emails, phone calls outside of those hours.
Which takes discipline.
It does. And I mean, there will be instances where if it's a very important client, or if it's a sort of a customer, or there's a particular project that you're working on, that you might want to say yes to that, but that then becomes the exception. And actually, when I was away on holiday for 2 weeks, and I was in some instances in the middle of nowhere, there was a bit of flexibility around working, because there were a few emails. I was at least able to sort of check emails, see what was important, and there were a couple that I needed to respond to there and then, which I was able to do without it sucking up huge amounts of time. I mean, it was sort of 5-10 minutes of an evening, send off a reply, get a response back the following day, and they knew the situation that I was in, so that was fine.
I mean, when you're on top of the Machu Picchu, it's very difficult. How was that, by the way?
Oh, it was fantastic. Yeah, it was lovely. Definitely no signal up there. I think I mean, I purposely had my mobile phone switched off, and not that many people contact me through that, but I did have a couple of emails that came through, which again, because of the time difference, I missed an opportunity because I was on holiday. But hey, we've all got to take holidays, and I know that there'll be other opportunities that come up, either through that connection or that have sort of come out since then. So yeah, there'll always be something else that comes along, so don't worry about missing out on an opportunity. And if you have a better idea of your business structure and where you're going and what your goals and objectives are, you can see the right opportunities when they arise.
The Spy Gadget, I'm sorry I don't know your Christian name, has a point. And he's joking, half joking, I think. What's personal time? Because it's become blurred, hasn't it?
It has, and while I still very much sort of focus on the balance, particularly if you're working for yourself, you don't tend to have as rigid a sort of a structured 9-to-5 routine. If you're working in the corporate world, then yes, you probably still do. And again, those boundaries get very blurred because people tend to work much longer hours. But it's the making sure that when you spend time doing either what you want to do, or you're with your family and friends, that's where you're spending the time. You're not sort of half in work, half trying to do work bits in personal time, and really blurring those boundaries. Use the flexibility, but make sure you have that balance between working hard and enjoying life and family, friends, everything else that goes on outside of work.
That's why, unless it's raining, I don't log in on Saturdays.
Very good.
I'm off out walking or on the allotment or visiting somewhere, and we tend to go out and about on Saturday. And you're right, you've got to have this breather. It is one of your boundaries, isn't it? It is a boundary.
Yes, yeah. And I mean, if you absolutely love your work, I remember one of my clients saying to me that they actually found it quite helpful reading and responding to some of their emails when they're on holiday, and I was sort of sharp intake of breath. But yeah, that's fair enough. Actually, if it makes it easier, and again, they had a boundary around the amount of time that they were spending on email, which is the same as I do now, and it then doesn't intrude on either weekend time, evening time, or holiday time. It's where the boundary gets really sort of blurred and breaks down is if you end up with, which I know a lot of people still do, is you take your laptop or your iPad or whatever it might be on holiday, and you're there reading and responding to emails and dealing with work-related issues as though you were in the office, when really you should be on holiday and enjoying time with the family, friends, or just whatever it is that you're doing, taking time out. And that's just as important as well.
Now, just to segue a little bit, we do have friends, I'm thinking of Sarah and Kevin here, who give freely of their time, and that's the way they do business.
Yeah.
And the Thursday Blogging Challenge on Facebook group with thousands of people in it, they give their help and expertise for free. But off the back of that, they've actually built their business, haven't they? So,
yes.
So there are the odd occasion where free works.
Oh yes, I'm not saying you should you don't give things away for free, particularly in a business context, but there's that balance between giving too much away and being sort of very open with information. And then if people want to find out more, then they will contact you. And I think that's certainly the way they've worked, and that's the way I've worked. I mean, there's a huge amount of information on a lot of websites, including mine, on that you give away for free. And then if people want to take the next step, they can, but you're not so restrictive with either being available or what's available. And again, I think that's something that you learn as your business develops, is how much you can give away for free, and when you need to make it part of your business, and just sort of say, no, that's enough's enough.
Yes. So can we just, the steps to saying no, just the sort of an outline of getting to say no from saying yes every time? Well,
one of the things, particularly if you're very good at constantly saying yes to everything, is to sort of set yourself the challenge or make a point of saying no. So this week, any opportunity that comes up, you don't instantly say yes to it. You either say no, or you can say, can I go check my diary, or can I check my work schedule, and then I'll be able to let you know, rather than coming out with an outright yes and then realizing that either you're not available or you don't have time or you're going to have to squeeze it in. Is the defer making a decision until you actually know what the impact is going to be.
I mean, that happened to me this week in reverse. I offered to interview somebody, and they said, I'll get back to you. Which I can accept. You know, they were launching a book, and I offered, and I haven't heard yet. Now, that's not a no.
No.
It's a maybe, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And I think the other thing is, people often say yes when they mean maybe, or maybe when they actually mean no. So it's about being clear about what your intentions are. I mean, I had a friend who was always saying yes to everything, but actually had no intention of either going to the meeting or making the commitment to which they'd said yes, but it was almost like they didn't want to say no. So therefore they just said yes, even though they knew they wouldn't have the time or they weren't particularly inclined to do it. So it's much better to say, no, I'm already busy then, or actually, no, I can't help you right now, but perhaps in a day's time, a week's time, an hour. It's particularly good with interruptions and sort of distractions that come in our day-to-day life, is being able to say, no, I can't do that because. So it's not a sort of an outright no, but there's a reason why you can't take on that particular piece of work or meet that commitment, whether it's work or social.
Yeah, I mean, Spike again says saying yes motivates him. Can we ask you a question? Because we're all together here.
Yeah.
Mr. Spiker, do you ever say no
Really likes the challenge.
Okay. Right. Okay. One of the practicalities of this is that I know people who arrange real world meetings, and people say, yes, I'm going, and they get everything ready. They do the catering, they've got the room, they've got everything organized, and the people who said yes don't turn up. I mean, that's when people are, that's a definite area where saying no helps people, because not to do so costs them.
Oh, definitely, yeah, and it's disrespectful as well to do that. But I think you see it all the time, in whether it's it's business meetings, events, networking meetings. People will say yes, and then for whatever reason, they don't turn up. It might be a perfectly valid reason. Something has happened at the last minute, but quite often, particularly in a business context, it's been, oh, I was too busy, ran out of time, there was something more important to do, and they haven't actually let the person know that they're not going to be there. So there's a certain element of forward planning and forward thinking about how I got time to go to this meeting, what else is likely to be happening around that time, and review it. There's nothing wrong in saying yes at one point, and then you get further down the line and think, oh, well, actually, I haven't got time to go to that meeting. Yeah. In which case you let the person know, and you make a decision about what's the better use of your time. Is it attending that meeting? And I've quite often done that with talking through with clients. They've got their their diary booked up with lots and lots of meetings, and then they realize that actually they need a chunk of time to do some work. And in discussion, we say, well, how important is it that you attend this meeting or that meeting? And they just put it in the diary because they were asked, and they just said yes, and that's it. So actually making a better decision about what's the best use of my time, staying and working on a project, or having a client meeting, or whatever it might be, or going to this meeting, and then letting the person know that they won't be able to attend the meeting because something else has come up, or they don't have the time. Or
I mean, a lot of people who are doing the video chats like we're doing today set up a Facebook event for it. Now, Facebook have got that covered, because when you are invited to an event, you can say yes, you can say no, but you can also say maybe.
Yeah.
That covers the full spectrum, doesn't it?
It does. It does.
Yeah. And there have been some wonderful comments. If anybody would like to join us on air, just press the camera icon bottom right, and you're more than welcome to come and join us as we continue this chat about saying no. And if you can convince us to say yes, you can come on air. No, seriously, if you want to join us, then please do.
I'm just wondering with Spy Gadget, when they're saying yes to, you said you're saying yes to everything that helps to motivate you, is whether you find it stressful, or it puts time pressure on you when you're saying yes to everything. If you've got the time, you've got the capacity, and it's things that you want to do, then it's great. But I tend to find it's a lot of people that say yes and then think, oh, I've got too much to do. And if you look at people that are overloaded with work, you often find that it's because they've said yes to too many things, and they don't have the capacity, or they've just put themselves under pressure.
Indeed. Welcome. Hi. Is your first, Rashim, is that, we're happy being called that? Yep.
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. And welcome. Do you have a question for Claire?
Well, I think, I mean, not really a question, just like really a comment, I think, around, I appreciate a lot of what you were saying around the boundaries. And I wrote in the comments how it reminds me of Robert Frost's poem, Good Fences. You know, good fences make good neighbors. Yeah. And it also reminds me of sometimes wherein people are taking more than you have to give. But they are only doing that because you're allowing it. So like when you consistently allow that, you kind of make them a thief a little bit. And it's kind of like your fault a little, you know, because it's like they will stop as soon as you set the boundaries. And then when you are a giver, givers have to set boundaries because takers rarely do.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the thing you find is that if you say no, people will have much more respect for you and for your time, if you're not always saying yes. Because rather than working on the assumption that, oh, I'll ask Claire to do this because she always says yes, they will respect you much more if you say no, and you'll find you're in much better control of your time and the choices that you make and the things that you can do just by saying no. I know it can be a really scary thing for some people. They sort of say, oh, I can't say no. And particularly to bosses. And I think I wrote a whole blog post on how you say no to your boss. Sometimes that's the person you need to say no to. But you do that in a very, perhaps in a different way that you might do to somebody else.
Yeah, I agree. And I really appreciate what you said about in terms of people having more respect for you when you say no, because I feel like my yeses have more integrity when I'm able to say no. Yeah. And they also have more value when I'm able to say no.
Yes. Yeah. And then people know that you'll be able to, that you will do what you say you're going to do. And Spy Gadget mentioned about if you don't perform or show up, it ruins your reputation. So plugging in these sort of yeses automatically as a knee jerk and then either not delivering or not being able to do it properly doesn't do you any good, either internally or sort of emotionally and physically and with everything else that you're going to do, as well as your reputation.
I agree.
Saying yes too often builds up pressure, doesn't it?
Oh, it does, yeah. That's where I think a lot of stress and pressure comes from, is people say yes to too much. And even in our personal lives, socially, we can sort of constantly say yes to sort of demands from friends and family, and that's where you end up with, particularly when if you're busy at work, you end up with all your evenings and weekends booked up or committed, and you don't have time for yourself.
And I think Steve too, kind of, I'm sorry, do you prefer Steven or Steve?
I answer to both. You're okay.
You don't have a preference?
Steven, yeah.
Steven. So Steven, one of the things that I hear you say when you say that about the building up the pressure too is like, I'm thinking of like the expectation that it builds up. Like, I have to say yes to this, because we've actually kind of conditioned people in terms of like how to interact with us and what type of behavior they can expect from us. And I think one of the ways in which this has come up for me is I'm a mom. I have an 8-year-old. And, you know, when you have a little one, you know, especially in their beginning ages, your life kind of revolves around them in a lot of ways. And you just, you know, you're so responsible for taking care of them and all of these things. And I really conditioned my daughter to expect me to do everything for her. And I really just kind of had to recondition her and just apologize to her. And I had to say to her, like, you know, it's not your fault because I let you think that I don't need a break. I gave you the impression that I can drop everything at a moment's notice and just do whatever you want. And that wasn't right for me to make you think that, because that is actually not true. And she rolled with it a lot easier than I roll with it. She made me this little thing for Mother's Day. It's a heart. And it's a thing for me to hang on my door that says mommy time. So she's like, well, just hang this whenever you need mommy time. And
excellent. And that's a really good example of boundaries. And I think it's really important, particularly with children, to set those boundaries from the beginning so they know what to expect, because that might be a reason why we're not very good at saying no in our adult life, is in that we've either never said no ourselves when we were younger or had no said to us. So it can be quite difficult to deal with. So yeah, perfect. And I love the way that she recognizes that and has come up with it. And it's, as you say, it tends to be more of a problem for you as a parent, or you as the sort of the business that you're working with your customers, thinking, oh, that's going to be terrible if I say no, they're not going to like me. But actually it makes things a lot easier when you do it.
Yeah, I think part of it too is this whole, I think when I grew up, I won't, you know, say like blame my mother or anything like that, but I definitely had a desire when I was a little girl to please my mother and my grandmother. Like I wanted them to, you know, I wanted to please them at every turn. So I think that I probably kept a little bit of that And it's not in everything, but it definitely shows up in personal relationships. There's some relationships I have no problem saying no. Some interactions I have no problem saying no. But then when it comes to my family, or when it comes to the people in my family, setting those boundaries gets a little bit blurry. Like I may have kept my sister's children a few days more than I would have normally, in a situation where I should have said no because I needed that time to myself.
Yeah, and you need to recognize that and have the confidence to be able to say, well, no, actually, I need my time for myself, so therefore I'm going to say no to taking on my sister's children, or not every time that they ask, because otherwise you do get taken for granted a lot if you're always saying yes. I noticed Spy Gadget's comment about their motto being "We're open 24/7, 365." As long as it's not one person doing all that, that's fine.
Well, no,
I recognise that there are some instances where that's part of business, or being in business, or the way that you want to work, but there still needs to be that balance.
yeah, I mean, there are some businesses which have got to, online businesses have got to be here 24/7, 365, like Fire Talk. We don't know whether it's actually true, but it seems like it, because we can ask a question any time of night or day and get an answer. The other thing is that we're joining again 2 continents today, because I assume you're in the States, yeah?
Yay.
And we're in the UK. And the magic of video, the video chats, and they've got to be available to help us 24/7, because we're in different time zones. All we need now is somebody from Australia, and we'd have perfect screen.
Well, I work across time zones as well, but again, I will have those boundaries about, I could potentially be running calls late at night or really early in the morning, but they're not. I have some flexibility around certain days that I will work late and work into the evenings, and I can fit in around various requests, but it's by no means I'm available 24/7 whenever you want to call. I set the boundaries or the parameters within which I will work with clients, and it fits in around them. I mean, you don't have to sort of say, yeah, I'm available 24/7. You can say, well, I'm only available up until this time or from this time, and there's usually people will work around that.
Yeah, it's Claire. I would like to ask you a question. So I like boundaries and prioritizing and all of these things. I have this little thing called a passion planner that that I use. My laptop, I have it set to tell me what time it is every hour. I'm weird that way. And I'd like to know some other resources and tools that you use in your business to kind of manage, prioritize, and just keep things clear for you.
I use something similar to the passion planner that you've got. It's along the lines of bullet journaling, which is something I came across probably earlier this year. I love using pen and paper, although I'm sort of a techie background. I think having something that you can write down and you can look at, not only does the writing things down help to consolidate things in your mind, and it helps with the whole planning process. So pen and paper is great, whatever format you want to use it, whether it's something like your passion planner, I think you said, or bullet journaling, or there are so many diary scheduling type journals out there that in slightly different formats. So having something there where you can see what your overall goals and objectives are. It might be life goals, it might be work goals, and then as you build your to-do list on a daily basis, it's taking from that and it's feeding back into it. I use Todoist as well, online app. It plugs into Google, Gmail, which I use again online, so I can be sort of accessible from pretty much anywhere as long as I've got a decent connection. And also that then downloads to my my phone and my tablet, so it's all connected. So that saves the time and effort of some managing your time. And yeah, Spy Gadgets mentioned Evernote. I've used Evernote, and some people, it's one of those things, if you use it, lots of people will love it. And Stephen, you said you use it as well, and it plugs into it. So it's looking at what is it that you want to try and achieve, and then finding the best tool that fits with that, whether it's pen and paper or some of these apps like Todoist and Evernote, which sort of work much more organically and flexibly and aren't as structured as maybe some things were a few years back.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Steve.
Specifics, then
Thank you, Rashim. Good to see you.
bounce me an email, Rashim.
Okay. Thank you.
Take care. Thank you.
Thanks.
Well, there we are.
Good.
Right. Would you like to summarise?
Oh gosh.
I know. I hate doing. I'll proceed the show afterwards.
I think the importance, if you want to take control of your time, then it's really important to be very selective about what you say yes to and what you say no to. And boundaries are also really important, both for yourself and for the people around you. Be very clear, set the expectations up front, and not only will it make your life easier, you'll be more focused, you'll make better decisions, and you won't be nearly as stressed out. So if you find, particularly if you're overworked, overloaded, you've probably been saying yes to too much. Start saying no.
I'm just typing your URL in there. Okay. Now, if you go to Claire's site, you'll find that Claire is the author of Time Management for Dummies, and I'm sure that as you've been watching today, there might be a discount code, but we're not selling anything. Claire and I never do. We're giving out. We're saying yes. We all say yes when we come on the shows and share our expertise. It's been a pleasure talking to Rashim today, and thank you for all the questions, Spy Gadget, and observations. It's been wonderful. Yes. William, thank you for joining us. Well, we'd like to say, we need to wrap this up. Claire, your go.
Yeah, thanks everyone, and do get in touch if you've got anything specifically that you want to tackle, because I know some of the, well, I could sort of say yes or no in this situation, but it can be quite difficult to think through. So yeah, and thank you everyone for getting involved and posting up your questions. It's been great.
Yep, and we'll be back next month with a new topic, and we'd love to see you there. We'll post it in the groups on Facebook. That will be in Born to Stream Live and Blood Nation and Joel Cohn's group and everywhere we can find. And we might also be taking, we might go to Facebook Live, but for the moment we're happy with Fire Talk, and we look forward to seeing you all again next month. So for now, bye.
Great. See you next month.
See you next
Bye.
month. Bye.